What up, athletes? Welcome back to my channel. We are on David Rose Street in Houston, heading towards the gardens, that is South Ramvelt Gardens. That's looking south from the direction in which we came. We went to the Houston commercial complex, and you should go look at the previous video to see what we did there. Some nice new stores opening up at the Houston commercial complex. Right now we're returning on David Rose Street, and this is a new warehouse building. Last time we were here, they had just put up the frame, completed the frame of these two warehouse structures, and it started, I think, or they hadn't even started building this other warehouse structure. So it turns out all of this land that was once vacant bush, actually even before it was bush, it was Gaisuko's sugar estate. So there was a lot of sugar crops growing in this location previously, but now it's being turned into a commercial area, and of course that means all of these buildings are now being constructed. This one looks like a warehouse building. The guys here are building a fence. So you can see these guys are working on building a fence around the warehouse. Yep. So these guys are working on a warehouse, but beyond it, of course, is the government's hotel, and next to it the new Sheriff shopping mall. But all this land is going to be developed in a matter of months, like within the next year or so. This land is going to be transformed into commercial and residential property. So it's important to take a look at it, because next time you see it, it might not look this way. But what we've been doing is actually exploring Houston area, particularly because I wanted to revisit the bridge entrance. So we did that in the previous video. We'll take a look at that. I wanted to show that some people were speculating that the bridge entrance is going to be an overpass or a flyover. I don't think so. I think what they're going to build is another roundabout, because that is what they built in Guyana. There are no overpasses in Guyana. Hopefully the next generation of leaders will be ambitious enough to start building 21st century infrastructure, at least being able to catch up with what's being built in other countries like China and Malaysia, Singapore. But right now we're looking at some of the very mundane infrastructure that's being built here in Guyana. We're heading back to the David Rose Street, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about development in Guyana. So I am going to produce those documentaries on India's global impact on Guyana and China's global impact on Guyana, looking at the role of billionaires, a new class of billionaires that are controlling governments now, in what I consider to be state capture. We're seeing it in real time in America. So a number of billionaires have taken over the American government, turning what was once a exemplary democracy into what is now can only be described as an oligarchy. The American oligarchy is emerging, and that is why we want to talk about the role of billionaires. Now, Guyana has its own billionaires, which are being created now in this oil boom by a government that is giving contracts to its friends. This is the reserve land on which the lines, the power lines from the power ship are laid out on these huge aluminum poles. And I discussed that in the previous video. Those power lines bring power from the ship all the way into the center of Georgetown to a power station where the voltage is stepped down to, they're using step down transformers to transform that voltage. I'm going to give you a lesson in electricity because it seems as if some people think that I'm only talking off the top of my head. I'm actually a physicist, and it seems to me surprising that people don't understand the importance of physics. Physics is the basis for electrical engineering. You wouldn't have electrical engineering without physics, or mechanical engineering, or any form of engineering, biomedical engineering, without physics. So for those of you still who have not appeared to completed your education, when I say I am a physicist, I'm actually saying that I understand the basis of all engineering and all science, because all of it is based on physics. But I'll talk about that in a future video. What I want to talk about is how the growing class of billionaires are impacting the world, not only in the US and places like China and India, but also in Guyana. There's a class of billionaires that's emerging based on infrastructure contracts that are being given to places like the Sheriff Group and so on. So if they get the majority of the government contracts, and they're getting the majority of taxpayers' money, and that's how these people become billionaires. It's nothing nothing as mysterious as genius, or use these terms if these people are smarter. No, it's usually just political patronage. Right? A lot of the Russian billionaires became billionaires because the government of Russia turned over state institutions to selected individuals. They were not bright. They were just favored by Russian elite, political class. And so the same thing is happening in Guyana. The country's wealth, public property is being privatized. All the property that was nationalized is now being privatized and put in the hands of selected individuals. And so they're becoming the billionaires. It's not because they're bright or intelligent or brilliant or geniuses. And this is true also in America. I disagree with those who call Elon Musk a genius. And as you can see from recent behavior, nobody who's a genius will be aligning with the Yahtzees, the German Yahtzees and white supremacists. So on the point of development and the transformation of the economy, I beg to differ when people think that this is actually being done by brilliant people. It's not being done by funny. These guys are running a brisk business here. Cleaning, bottom wash, cleaning vehicles. A lot of these cleaning services and what do you call them? The detailing services are local business people rising to the challenge of providing the service for the demand. All the influx of vehicles, the demand for cleaning services is growing, it has grown. So the point here is that the billionaires who are now transforming the societies around the world and in Guyana now are not necessarily the smartest people. They're just the people who have been selected by the politicians to receive the bulk of state resources, state funding. For example, Elon Musk is being funded largely by the American government, so that SpaceX, for example, all the contracts to launch space equipment into the center, the space center, the space station, those contracts come from the US government and they're being given to Elon Musk, and that's money for his companies that make him a billionaire. And so this is not about being brilliant or being a genius. It's about patronage. It's about the US government giving contracts to its favored few. But we're going to talk about that in detail in future video. Like I said, I want to do a series of videos on billionaires and how they impact development, how they implement, for example, Indian foreign policy. And the Indian impact of India on the world is actually being mediated by Indian billionaires. We're back on Mandela Avenue.